Welcome to the Intuitive Websites Internet Marketing Podcast, bringing you the country's top podcast on the subject of internet marketing. Welcome back to the Intuitive Websites Internet Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Glenn Thayer, and with me today I have Thomas Young, CEO of Intuitive Websites. Today we're going to talk about generic websites and how to avoid developing one. I know there's a lot of website templates out there. There's a lot of things that you can do, and I think there's a lot of people when they first get out onto the web, Tom, they go, I need a website. I just got my business. And so they want to throw something out there, so they come up with a what we would call a generic website. So if you can go into some detail on what exactly do you mean by generic?
Well, when you think about the internet and you think about all of the different companies that have websites, it's got to be millions and millions and not billions of websites out there. And so many of them are just what I would call a generic website. There's nothing unique and of value on the site. When I think of a generic website, I think of a website with the tagline that says, welcome to our website. And then content that basically says, here's how great we are. The site doesn't communicate well. It doesn't talk to the target market. It doesn't add any kind of value or special insights in the content. So there's nothing unique offered by the site. It's kind of like an online brochure that's just statically sitting there and not dynamic. If you look at the stats for sites like this, they generally have a high bounce rate. There's a lot of websites that fall into this category. And what I want to do is go through some pointers on how to avoid having a generic website. And what you mentioned with the templates, it's becoming easier and easier now to build a website. So pretty much anyone can do that. But if anyone is building a website and thousands of people or more, millions are using these templates, then what's going to happen? The web's going to be full of template-looking websites with generic content that don't say anything or do anything.
Are you trying to tell me that that's not already the case now?
I think it is the case, especially with the vast majority of small businesses and medium-sized businesses. So what do we do to avoid that? I mean, that's really the question.
Well, I mean, what are some of the things that people can make? I mean, obviously, when you look at a generic website, it's something where I have found it's usually service-based businesses. A lot of the service-based small businesses, it's the welcome to our website. Yeah. Okay, great. So what the heck do you do?
That's right. What value do you provide? Well, here's the thing, and I want our listeners to hear this really clearly, is that no successful business is generic. If you have a successful business and you're doing things right, the key is to translate what you're doing right, the benefits you're providing, the messaging and the communication you're having offline. You've got to translate that onto your website. You've got to translate what makes your business successful offline onto your website.
Well, that does the same thing. It just goes back to marketing 101. It's when you're talking to somebody about how are you different from your competitors? And online, if you have a generic website or a generic looking website, you've just said, hey, we're the same as everybody else that's on the web. We're exactly the same. Call us and we'll give you the lowest price.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of times that happens. Well, it happens for many reasons, but one of the things that causes that to happen is that the high-level managers in a company, even a smaller business, are either not involved in the website or don't understand the website or think that this is how you do websites. And so even though these high-level managers or maybe even the founder of the company really understand the value they bring and understand the power of their business, they turn the website over to someone else. They kind of let it be generic because they either don't understand it or don't take the time. When the web is probably your most powerful marketing tool or marketing branch. So you've got to get the high-level people in the business, the founder of the company involved. And the straight demographics prove this out. For example, most people today that run successful businesses, small businesses, are probably late 30s to 40s to mid 50s and up. Okay, they're just it's just a numbers game there, and a lot of those folks and many of those folks have missed this internet curve, and a lot of them have missed it because they focused on their business, the one thing that they founded, the thing of value that they do bring, but that's no longer an excuse. You can't hide behind that anymore. The web is integrated as the center point of providing value to customers. So you have to jump in there.
Let's go back to that demographic you're talking about. How does somebody in that demographic take it to the next level? I mean, what's one idea that they could implement right now Let's say we've got somebody in that demographic that's listening and says, yeah, I need some help with my website. What do they do?
Well, they either got to bring some people in that really know what they're doing on the web, and they've got to stay away from pure technology, pure design, graphic people, and get into the marketing strategists like what we do, or what they need to learn themselves, because a lot of it is the translation of marketing strategy onto this medium, this technology medium, the web. One of the places to start is with the content on your homepage. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to have clear, direct content on your homepage, and in the kind of content that you have with your customers, the kind of content that led to the growth and development of your business, that should be on your homepage. Just doing that alone will help your website stand apart and make sure it's not generic.
Well, there's one of the things on that I wanted to address. A lot of companies, and I think there's a lot of high-level managers that look at it that their copy has to be a certain way on the internet. So when they go to their homepage, they say, hey, our copy's written a certain way. Why don't we just take the brochure from our office brochure that seems to work? Let's just copy that and put it up on the web, instead of having a one-on-one conversation with the person that's on the other end of the browser.
Yeah, it's kind of like the blind leading the blind, right? I mean, it's exactly what's happening is that, well, that's the way other people are doing it. That's the way we've been told to do it. Let's just do it that way. And it's not what works on the web. And the reason is because, a lot of these companies are not really understanding their target market and how they use the internet. Now, they understand their target market offline. They're successful. But they've got to understand their target market on the web as well. They have to understand how people use websites. And one of the best ways to do that is to look at how you use websites. What's important to you? When do you leave a website? What pages do you like to see on a site? And what things of value do you like to see? Make your website do the same for your target market. A good example of that would be the furniture industry. My wife and I have recently been shopping for furniture. We've moved into a new house. And we've gone into several different stores, Crate & Barrel, Pottery Barn, Sofa Mart, and Woodley's. Okay, these are 4 different examples. Every store you go into, you can immediately see the change in the demographics and the change in the approach to the demographics. Crate & Barrel is more for the hip, urbanite, younger demographic. Woodley's is more a traditional furniture maker, so it's going to have an older demographic, people wanting more country designs or mountain designs. Pottery Barn is more upscale urban, with pricing that just didn't make sense. But then again, when you think about the urban upscale, I guess that works for them. And then Sofa Mart on the low end, entry level pricing, and much younger demographics, people that are buying their first couch and that sort of thing. So your website has to do the same thing. Speak in the language of your target market and draw them in with what's important.
So an example from that you just had for the furniture places, Woodley's, you say, is more of a traditional furniture store. So you've got Woodley's, this traditional furniture store. Online, it would not be smart for them to try to brand it as a hip, urban place to buy furniture.
Contemporary, right.
Or contemporary furniture.
Or it wouldn't make sense for them to brand it as a place where you get great pricing. Now, all of these stores, because of the economy currently, they have great pricing. They have great value, with the exception maybe of a Pottery Barn or Restoration Hardware or something like that. But the bottom line is that if you want the very low price, then you go to a Sofa Mart. Right. You've got to understand the demographic and how you approach them on the web, just like these furniture stores do in their retail environment. And when you walk into these stores, you immediately see the demographic. I mean, you just look around at the people in the store and you see, well, that's who they're catering to. Websites are created in vacuums, that's what I call it. And that's the fact that you can't see your web user. All you do is see your stats. Well, if you were to look at your web user, it's the same thing as the people in the retail store. And the website has to appeal to what they're looking for.
So when talking about copy for the website, you've got, I mentioned before, as far as people taking their brochure copy and cutting and pasting and putting it on their website.
Right.
Does doing that, we know that partially leads to a generic site, because it
really does.
It's not personalized for the web experience, if you will. How can people avoid it? What's the best way to be able to go about being able to put your branded message out there on the web so people get what your company does, but not sound like you're full of marketing jargon or marketing speak.
Well, there's two things to think about. One is that you have to write in what works for the user on a website. They're reading on a computer screen, so it has to be scannable. We've talked about this in other podcasts. So write for the way that users read on a website. That's number one. Number two is write in the language of your target market. If you go look at the websites that we talked about, or those furniture stores, you're going to see different types of content based on if you're an urban hipster or if you're a traditional furniture buyer or a low-end buyer. SofaMart's going to focus on great pricing, lowest prices around, no financing, great prices. Woodley's is going to focus on traditional, years in the business, experience, history, quality. Got to talk in the language of your target market. And don't talk too much about your business. What brochures do, and brochures in some ways can do this because usually when you're giving a brochure out, you've met someone in person and they want more information. They want to know more about you. It's a different interaction on the website. On a website, they haven't met you. They don't know you. They're evaluating you. So you've got to talk about direct benefits to the user on that website. Don't talk too much about your business. In fact, look at your current website and just run it through a test and say, how much of our website are we spending talking about ourselves and how great we are? And how much are we spent talking about the value that we're providing to customers?
Well, think about it in one example might be like CPAs, like a CPA website.
Right.
Let's take that because that's something that I'm sure there are plenty of generic template websites that are available for CPAs to buy.
Yeah, and think of it in this way, like the sales, you mentioned Marketing 101, the sales 101 of benefits versus features. Benefits are the things people come and buy from you, the feelings they get, the value they get. Features are the descriptions of the product, right? So you're in your content on your website, you want to have your headers be benefits, and then the supporting content should talk about features. For example, a CPA who does your taxes. The feature is they do the taxes. They crunch the numbers and do the taxes. But the benefits might be peace of mind for you. It might be quality of life. It might be assurances or the relationship with the CPA, all of those things.
Or something even simpler than that is, hi, our CPA firm won't make you feel like an idiot when you come in and don't understand the tax code or understand the implications of accounting.
Absolutely, and that leads back to the benefits that you might get, like having a CPA that just you have confidence in, you have trust in. Those are benefits. The features are that they get the work done on time and that they're professional and they're accurate, that sort of thing.
And if you get audited, they're there to stand behind your back. Okay, now what about graphics, images, and photos? Because I always go back to the when I think generic. I mean, I apologize, Tom. Whenever I think generic, I always think a template site because there's so many of those out on the web right now. But you have graphics, images, and photos. Yeah, a lot of the biggest thing that comes to mind is stock photography right off the bat.
Well, it is the thing that most small businesses do in a template with graphics or in a new website is they throw stock images out there in an attempt to make the site unique, to make it not generic. But what that happens is it looks more generic because you can see these stock images everywhere and sometimes they're repeated on websites. So you want to avoid doing that. You want to have clip art with messaging. You want to use real people in your organization with captions and descriptions. Just because you know someone is the CEO of your company and you put them on your homepage doesn't mean your users know who that person is. So you want to tie that all together with captioning. And
that would be a good idea from the standpoint of here's a picture of somebody. In that caption right underneath it or in the photo, if they need to do it that way, here's who this person is. If there's a picture of a woman up there and it says, contact us and there's a picture, it should say, this is Dolores, our receptionist.
That's right. Don't use the generic photos. And if you're selling products, if you have an e-commerce site, one of the things that can really make your site come to life is do some competitive research and see how other people present these products. If they're products that are sold on other websites or whatever. And when you're presenting your products, do something that no one else has done. Show product angles in photography that no one else has done. Use video as an option. Put a slideshow together about your product or use Flash to describe the product. Use other media to show the product in ways other people haven't. This is the kind of thing that will keep your site from being generic because what do most sites do? Boom, picture of the product, a few bullet points, price, you're done. Do more than that. And photography is probably the best way to do it because we've just found in user testing a lot of people won't click on media. They just look at photos. But get as much detail as possible. People will appreciate that and it'll keep your site from being generic.
And that goes so much for e-commerce because I don't know how many e-commerce sites that I've seen lately over the past week. I was looking for some new equipment and I'm looking through and literally I probably went to 15 different websites. They all looked exactly the same. The only difference is they had a different name up at the top of the website.
So what is that? I mean, part of that's for usability and that's fine. For usability, generic is okay because you want it easy for the user. But for product presentation, let's get more dynamic and let's show some things that other people haven't.
Well, I had to take a couple different checks to go, am I on the same website? Because literally I thought it was the same website.
It might have been the same technology. It could have been the same shopping platform.
It looked like they had the exact same everything. Well, we do end each of the podcasts with an action item plan. So, Tom, what are the key action items for the listeners for this podcast?
Well, if you're at a high level CEO or management, or you want to get CEO or management folks involved in your website, start with asking the question, what is unique and special about our business? And how can we translate that to the web? And maybe even start with a tagline of 8 to 12 words to do that. Then evaluate your website content from the point of view of your target market. Make sure your content is clear and direct, speaks to the target market. Use dynamic and unique photography with captions and messaging to show product, and actually your services too. You can do the same with services. And offer product views and descriptions that are not seen anywhere else on the web. Make it easy to contact your company, which is something we've talked about in many podcasts.
Ways to contact your company on every single page
on every
website.
Page, absolutely. And then make sure that you get feedback on all these things through user testing or through surveys or just by talking to people on the web. People that are using your website.
And that's easy, even if you can get one person to do it, one person is better than none.
Oh, a handful of people will give you tons of information. So if you do these things, I think you can avoid having a generic website. You'll keep people on your website longer and you'll have more conversions.
So you heard it, folks. Avoid developing a generic website. And folks, we'll talk with you the next time around for the Intuitive Websites Internet Marketing Podcast. This has been an Intuitive Websites Internet Marketing Podcast. For more information and to see all the available podcasts and much more, visit intuitiveblog.com.